When you first start off in Fusion, it can seem a bit confusing. So many different nodes, so many ways to connect them. So in this video I'm going to break all of that down to just the most important principles that you need to get started. And we're going to do all of that with 5 core foundational nodes. So by the end of the video you'll not only have a much better understanding of how Fusion works, but you'll also have the confidence to start making your own creative compositions.
Okay, let's grab a Fusion comp, stick it on the timeline, and then we'll jump into Fusion and start by having a quick look at the workspace. We have the viewing area here. This is the area where we'll build out a node tree, and you can open the inspector and see the controls for whichever node you have selected here. You might notice that there is this row of icons above the node tree area. This is a selection of the most commonly used nodes, which you can just drag and drop onto the node tree. However, you can also hit Shift and Space to bring up the full list of nodes, and there is a useful little search bar at the bottom of this list. Pro tip when you're using the node list: if you have a node selected, then choose a new one from the list, Fusion will automatically connect the new one next in line in the node tree. If you don't have any nodes selected when you choose from the list, Fusion will place the new node in a blank space and you can connect it yourself. Finally, I know a lot of people get confused about the inputs and outputs on nodes, and it can seem a bit intimidating. Here's a really easy method to remember what each one does. So you'll see there is this grey square, that's the node output, and these coloured triangles pointing into the node, these are different types of input. You have yellow to put something in the background, green to put something in the foreground, and blue to use something to mask out part of the scene. Not all nodes have all 3 of these colours, but the colours always have the same job. And the way that you can easily remember which one does which is to picture a landscape with a yellow sun in the background, green grass in the foreground, and a blue lake covering or masking part of the scene. The most obvious way to use this node is to create a coloured background, but it can also be used to add colour to other elements such as shapes. I'll demonstrate that later, but first let's look at the basic controls. Click on the colour rectangle and you'll get this pop-up window. There are a number of pages, but everything we need to begin is on the first page. You can easily select using the colour wheel and tone selector, drag and drop onto the swatch if you need to save colours to be reused multiple times, and use this eyedropper to copy any colour on screen. If you look in this drop-down menu, you will find controls to add a gradient fill. The first 4 are fairly basic and just offer colour control, and the last option offers much more in-depth control. Let's just set a vertical gradient for now. Set the colour at the top and the bottom of the gradient. I'm going to choose white and grey. Next we'll look at the merge node. This is the main way you'll join elements in your comp together. If you have a quick look at the inspector, you can see we also have some rudimentary controls for things like positioning, blend modes and opacity. Just note that these controls only affect what's coming in on the green foreground input. So let's hook something up to that. Grab another background, then let's grab a transform node, which is going to help us change the size and shape of the background node. If we press Shift and Space again to bring up the node list, you can see there are actually 3 transform nodes. The first one, Transform XF, is the most simple, offering only rudimentary controls such as position, size and angle. The third one is for transforming 3D objects, so we're going to skip that here, and instead we're going to focus on the middle one. Now, if you look in the inspector, you can see there's a lot more control options in here. In the position controls panel, we have all the standard controls such as zoom, rotate, pitch and yaw. And in addition to this, if you change the control mode in this drop down menu, you can also have 2 interactive controls, canvas and pins, which give you a very hands-on way to adjust the image. Below this you have the image input panel, where you can precisely control the crop as well as soften the edges and round the corners. Okay, so now we can see we have a background with a gradient, and then another background reshaped by the transform and piped into the foreground of the merge, so that it is on top of the gradient. And if you have a quick look in the merge controls, you can see what I was talking about earlier, about how if we adjust the controls in here, it only affects the foreground input. All of that goes out of the merge output and into the media out node so that we can see it on the screen. Let's add some more stuff. We're going to explore the first three shapes: rectangle, ellipse and polygon. Rectangle and ellipse are pretty self-explanatory, and a polygon is just a way of drawing an irregular shape just by clicking points like this. If you click and drag, you'll also get these control arms to make curved lines, and you can go back and manipulate these points at any time. For this composition, we're going to use an ellipse, and we'll add that to the node tree with another merge node. All three of these shapes have almost identical controls in the inspector. I'll just go through the most useful here. Level is basically opacity. You can add a soft edge. Border width, as you might expect, just creates an extra line on the outside of the shape. This is easier to see if you turn solid off, so it turns the fill in the middle of the shape off. And you can also invert the whole thing here. When you turn solid off, you'll notice these extra controls appear for position and length. These are most useful for animating a line on or off, and you can get particularly creative with the polygon tool here. Finally, at the bottom of the inspector, we have controls for the position and size on the screen. Let's just do a little bit of animation on this shape. Go to frame 1 on this little timeline under the viewer. Move the position and length all the way to the left, and then hit the grey diamond to add a keyframe. Whenever you add a keyframe in Davinci, it automatically starts looking out for further adjustments to that same control value. So as you change to a different point on the timeline and adjust controls, it'll keep adding keyframes automatically. So if we now go to frame 15, and move the position halfway and the length all the way to the right, you'll see it's also added some keyframes in there. And if we play it back, the circle will now animate on. Shapes are also really useful to use as masks. Just plug them straight into the blue mask input of any node. Let's give that a go. Grab another background node, change the colour to blue, and then pipe the ellipse into the mask input of the background and the output of the background into the merge. Now only the parts of the background masked by the shape are visible. If you go back to the shape node and click invert, then the opposite will be true. There's a few different text nodes in Fusion, but today we're just going to focus on the basic text plus node. Add another merge node. All the other nodes go into the background of that merge. Grey output goes to the media out, and then grab a text plus and put it into the green foreground. Now, if you look in the inspector, you'll see pretty much all the controls are the same as when you have a text plus title on the timeline in the edit page, and there's a lot of them. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to go quickly through some of the most useful controls. But let me know if you'd like to see more of a deep dive into all of the controls within Text Plus. So we've got 6 tabs along the top here. In the first tab we have a text input box, font selection, colour, size, tracking, and controls to animate the text on and off the page. In the layout tab we have controls for where on the screen the text is placed, rotation around 3 axis, and background colour. And in the shading tab we have a bunch of presets for things like outlines and shadows, and you can turn these on and off and then adjust the settings of each below. They're basically just starting points for certain looks. Let's just add a bit of text in here. For this comp I'm going to use wingding symbols, and then I'm going to add a bit of animation. Go to frame 6 and put a keyframe on the size control. Skip back to frame 1 and take the size down to 0. Now pop a keyframe on the text box, skip 1 frame forward and change the 3 letters. Keep skipping forward and changing the letters for another 10 frames. Then, when you play it back, you get this scrambled text effect. Let's take it up another level and add some other elements to the text. If you type blur into the node search list, you'll see there are many different types of blur that you can use, and it's definitely worth going through each of these and seeing what they do. For this example, we're just going to grab the basic blur node that you can also access from the toolbar. Let's put that between the text and the merge node and bring the blur size up to about 8. Then let's add an ellipse to the mask of the blur. We'll make the edge softer, invert the mask, and bring the width and height in so that we're just blurring the edges of the text. Let's play that back now and have a look what we've made.
As you can see, there's so many creative possibilities, even just with various combinations of these 5 nodes. I recommend getting to know these 5 as well as you can, and then gradually adding more nodes to your repertoire, and before you know it, you'll be making some really quite sophisticated creations.